Next, we will discuss some of the most interesting, responsible and environmentally friendly investment themes with Helena Vinesfiestas from BNP Paribas Investment Partners. Helena, could you talk about the overall strategy of the socially responsible investing team and then perhaps some of the more interesting investment themes within your overall approach?
Certainly. We have developed a few years ago our responsible investment policy, which is like our Bible, so to say. Within our responsible investment policy, the first key pillar is actually the United Nations Global Compact principles, which actually are the same as the OECD multinational guidelines. And those principles, to cut a long story short, are the reflection of the International Declaration on Human Rights, the 4 key conventions on labor standards, the Environmental Protection Convention, and finally the Anti-Corruption Convention of United Nations. So what we do is we screen all the companies within the BNP Paribas Investment Partners against those principles. And when we have identified a company who has repeatedly, violated one of those principles, then unfortunately we exclude it from our investment universe. That said, we always try to engage with the company and try to accompany it to improve, so encouraging the company to improve its performance, because this is not about divesting, this is about exercising our role as responsible investors. The second key point of our policy, it's our sector policies, what we call. So basically there are certain areas that because of their nature that are considered more sensitive. That is the very case, for instance, of mining, or coal mining. So we have developed specific policies for investing in those sectors. Then we have developed our responsible stewardship policy and strategy, which includes our voting rights and how we exercise them, and then our engagement strategy with companies, very much focused on the 10 principles of the United Nations Global Compact, but equally on our climate change and human rights strategies.
We see the large pension schemes in the US, CalPERS, the New York funds, often trying to influence the behaviour of companies they invest in, although some critics say this can sometimes be politically motivated. What is your view of these corporate activism policies of some of these large institutions?
It's really interesting because here within Europe, most of us responsible investors, we have on a day-to-day work, we engage with the companies we invest in constantly. And as you might have seen it, for instance, with a group of investors here in the UK and some within the continent, we did file last year a few resolutions on mining and oil and gas companies, asking them for what is the strategy on 2 degrees scenario, as a result of the Paris Climate Accord. And those resolutions were actually discussed also with the boards, and the company supported it. Now, in the US, it's a totally different scenario where there is not such a, let's say, habit, or there's no custom on engaging with the companies and having that dialogue. It's a little bit more confrontational, and investors would use their vote and a resolution to get to the door for then start discussing it with the companies. Now, what we are now starting to do for the first time of our life is collaborating much stronger with US investors such as CalPERS or the New York State in order to sit on the table with the companies and try to encourage companies to improve their environmental or social practices.